Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Football Manager 2018, the beta with Zebu Nation. And here we are in Season 2 with FC Dallas of MLS. This is our preseason spectacular little episode I like to have at the beginning of every season, just sort of to go over the off-season comings and goings and happenings and whatever, just to start the new season off with a bang. So we're going to go over this week's MLS corner by talking about the off season. First thing you got to know is that you get almost no vacation. There is no rest for the weary. Now, if you fail to make the playoffs back in November, then you basically get most of November off as a little break just to recharge your batteries. But if you do make the playoffs, if you make the MLS Cup, which is ends in early December, then you've only got a couple of days before the next season starts again, because right in the early December, you've got to get ready for the waiver draft and the re-entry draft. And then this season, there was an expansion draft, so you got to make moves for that. And then in January, you got the MLS Super Draft, and you got to get ready for that. You get emails that are very important. You have to scout all these young players. There's a combine that you have to scout. And then there's the actual draft where you have to go through the 4 rounds of the draft and hem and haw and decide who am I going to take, who am I going to bring on to the team. All that stuff. And then to add on top of that, this season with FC Dallas, we've got Champions League, and Champions League is starting earlier than ever. Our first Champions League game is on January 31st. So it's, only a month between the end of last season and the beginning of having to play real games in the next season. So we're going to go over all of that in our video here, but I just wanted to make you aware that you can't really go on vacation in MLS the way you do in some other leagues, especially like some of the lower leagues in England where you just sort of go on vacation for a month or two. Unless you fail to make the playoffs, then I guess you can go on vacation in November. But other than that, you got constant emails, constant things you got to work on and drafts and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to go over how we navigated this off season. So first of all, we had to start our off season early. We had to start our off season in January and start scheduling friendlies so that we could get ready for Champions League. And Champions League in North America has had a little bit of a structural change. I won't talk about that just yet in this video. I'm going to have a special Champions League video where I'll talk about it. But just be aware that Champions League has a different format this year in North America, and it starts to take place a little earlier. So just be aware of that if you're going to qualify for Champions League. The other couple of things that we mentioned, we'll go to our transfers. And as you can see, we got a lot of things cooking. We got a lot of things in the hopper right now. But we want to look at our transfer history and see some things that happened. So the first thing that happened this off season was we had the waiver draft. And in the waiver draft, gosh, I hate coughing. Anyway, in the waiver draft, we had a couple of players in there that we cut, but then I decided to pick up Jose Villarreal, 24 years old, pretty decent guy, left-footed attacking midfielder. So he gives us, just a little bit of versatility out there. He can play central midfield as well. He can kind of play all over the field, honestly, if we take a look at this guy. So he can kind of play all over the field. And I just wanted to pick up a guy in the waiver draft to show you what it looks like. And if you look at his history, it says here re-entry draft. So that is actually the second draft that happened. The waiver draft, as I mentioned before, is for players who got cut, younger players, and it's the re-entry draft, which is for players whose contracts ran out and are older players. So he's over the 23-year-old threshold. He's only 24, but that's why he was in the re-entry draft instead of the waiver draft. So I actually didn't pick anybody in the waiver draft because there just wasn't anybody really good available. Although I will say in previous seasons, I have gotten the only wonder kid that I ever had in any save in MLS. I got through the well, not even in MLS. The only wonder kid I've ever had in Football Manager, I got through the MLS waiver draft. He was an 18-year-old central defender, American, and he was like, 3.5-star guy that I don't know why they cut him, but one of the other teams in MLS cut him. They couldn't afford his contract or whatever. So I picked him up, and by the end of the season, he was, on the U.S. national team. He was getting bids from all over the world, and I couldn't keep the guy because he was too good. He was an actual wonder kid, like a 4-5-star guy. So you can find gems in the waiver draft and the re-entry draft. But for this case, I was just looking for a veteran sort of dude to fill out the roster, and Jose Villarreal fit the bill. Now, we had to give him a new contract in order to sign him. That's, one of the stipulations of the re-entry draft. The waiver draft, not so much. You can sign the guy if you don't want to lose him immediately. But if you don't care, if you want to pick him up and drop him for, maybe he wasn't the player you thought he was, maybe your scouts weren't good enough, you can get rid of him. But in the re-entry draft, you sort of have to give him an automatic 1-year contract. So that's what we did for Villarreal. Then, of course, as always, we brought up a player from our juniors, Michael Garza, central defender. Not really a very good player, but we needed a central defender because we had to start our season so early. Our roster was kind of in shambles. So we brought this guy up from our juniors and put him on the roster for at least a couple of games. Then came the expansion draft. Yeah. Now, the expansion draft was very interesting because we lost a very good player. We lost Christian Coleman. Now, here are some of our other players that we lost. These were guys, who went through the waiver draft, didn't get picked up. Besler got picked up. Tommy Thompson got picked up in the re-entry draft. And that's fine. But we lost Christian Coleman. Take a look at this guy. Look at his history. We lost him in the expansion draft. The expansion draft was brutal. You could only protect 11 of your players. And most of my players were already pre-selected for me because any player, I believe, under the age of 22 was automatically protected. So I could only protect really 4 of my veterans. And I had to leave Coleman off that list. I just signed him to a new contract so that he was no longer a designated player. And I guess that made him too good to pass up for LAFC. So they took him in the expansion draft. So we lost our second best striker to LAFC in the expansion draft. So that's one of the pitfalls you have to look out for in this second season in MLS. Anytime there's an expansion season in MLS, you gotta watch out for them poaching your guys. Now, the good news is they can only poach one of your guys. They can only draft one guy per team. But it happened to be Coleman, one of our younger players, a guy I didn't want to lose, but I had to unprotect him because there were other guys that I knew they were going to pick. I knew they would want to pick, some of our American guys like Acosta or Hedges. So I had to protect those guys. And Coleman got the short straw, and unfortunately, the roll of the dice was not in our favor, and LAFC picked him up. All right. Then we let a couple of guys go. Leonardo, Ferreira. Well, Leonardo, we let him go on a free. Just get out of here. We don't need you anymore. And then we sent out a bunch of guys on loan. All of our young players, our 17, 16, and 18-year-olds that we had, we sent them out on loan because this year we had draft picks. We had super draft picks. 5 of them. 3 in the first round, 2 in the second round. Very excited to actually have the super draft this season. Now, I was a little concerned about the super draft. because I sent my scouts out there to the Super Draft. First of all, sometime around late December, early January, you're going to get a couple of emails that says, first email is going to say, these are the players who are declaring for the MLS Super Draft. Do you want to draft? Do you want to scout them? You have to click the button that says, yes, scout them. That's very important. Then you're going to get another email that says, these are the Generation Adidas players who are declaring for the Super Draft. Do you want to scout them? Click that button. Scout those guys. It's very important. Do not miss those emails. Don't go on vacation and miss those emails because it's very hard to scout those guys. Now, the good news for the Super Draft is that this year, when you scout guys for the Super Draft, they actually show up in your scouting database, which is, thank the Lord. They didn't show up in your scouting database last year in FM17 or in FM16 that I remember. But FM18, they finally fixed that bug and players finally show up, who've declared for the Super Draft. They finally show up in your scouting when you click on your scouting. So this year I was able to scout them okay, not as well as I would have liked because I didn't do what I should have done, which is you have to tell all your scouts, cancel everything you're doing and focus on the Super Draft because you have to scout these guys so much. You have to go into the combine and select the players you want and scout them individually just so you get a better feel because you got, a couple of hundred players to scout in just a couple of weeks. So you're not always going to get all the information you need. And my scouts, quite frankly, are not very good. They're all like 9, 10, 11 abilities, somewhere around there. So they just, when they were scouting these guys, they were really scouting them low and saying these are like, 1.5 star guys with 3-star potential. And it was looking pretty bad. So I was kind of drafting these guys on faith and thinking maybe my scouts are telling me wrong. Maybe my scouts aren't that good. And it turned out that they weren't that good. So I drafted 5 players, and they turned out to be pretty good. So we got Ricardo Zamora here, 21-year-old striker. 2.5 star ability, 3-star potential. He's all right. He's not what I would consider any kind of superstar or anything like that. But he's good enough to put on the team to have as a reserve striker, and so I can take some of those 15-year-olds, don't have to bring them up from the academy. I can send them out on loan, and this guy can take their place. He's not going to be a superstar for us with only 13 pace and 12 finishing, but he's okay. He was one of our late round draft picks. So to get this kind of guy late round is pretty much what you're looking for. And by late round, I mean mid-second round. So this is what you're looking at here is a mid-second round pick, which is why in my previous video I told you trade away your 3rd and 4th round picks in the Super Draft because you're not going to get anybody better than this 2.5 star, 3-star potential guy in, the later rounds. So this is like the best guy you could hope to get in the later rounds. So that's why it's okay, trade away your 3rd and 4th round picks, stick to 1st and 2nd round picks because this guy was a 2nd round pick. Then we went and we picked up Andrew Storer, left fullback. He was one of our first picks. I really wish they would put these guys in order of when you picked them. I really wish they would tell you what round they were picked in. That would be very helpful. But that information is not readily available. But Andrew Storer, I had those young left backs, those 17-year-old fullbacks that I had on my team, and I wanted to find replacements for them. And this guy, luckily, was one of the better players in the draft. He was one of my first-round picks. Physicals, pretty good, other than jumping reach. Jumping reach is 6. That's really not what I'm looking for, but pace, acceleration, pretty good. Tackling, pretty good. Very good leadership. So this guy can fit into the team chemistry pretty well. And he's got a lot of potential. 3.5 star potential is really good. That's what you can kind of expect from a 1st round draft pick, especially like a mid 1st round draft pick. You're looking at 3.5 star potential. Now, if you got one of the top 5 draft picks, you could maybe get a guy who's got 4-star potential. But that's kind of the upper limit. If you get a guy with 4.5-star potential, that's like superstar. That's like LeBron James coming into the draft. So that's a guy you absolutely want to sell the farm to go after that kind of guy. But your typical first round draft pick will look like this. Either 2 stars, 2.5 stars with 3.5-star potential. Not a world beater, but a very, very capable, or at least the potential to be a capable MLS player. Then after that, we got Ronnie Caspiel, another 21-year-old, a goalkeeper. This was another one of my late round picks, my second round pick. Not a great player, 2.5-star potential, but we just needed a reserve goalkeeper. We only had 2 goalkeepers on the roster. Just needed a third guy. I didn't want to bring one of my 16-year-olds up from the academy, so this guy is serviceable. 14 reflexes, 14 handling, 12 tendency to punch, which is always fun. 15 jumping reach, so he can reach 6'4". His aerial reach and command of areas are not good, but those are things that, through a little tutoring, he can raise these significantly. So he's an okay dude. Again, a second round pick. Graham Edwards, central defender. 2-star player, 2.5-star potential. Again, like I said earlier, we were very low on central defenders this year. So I went out and got this guy just to fill in, just so we don't have to play 17-year-olds back there. And he's just a serviceable dude. His strength is a little low, but jumping reach is okay. Positioning okay. Tackling, marking a little low. Heading okay. He's just career backup dude. And, come to think of it, he was the second round pick. Anyway, doesn't really matter, does it? But he was a later pick, and that's kind of what you can expect from a later pick. And then Mauricio Manguia, I think that's how to pronounce it. Right back, another one of our first round picks. And this guy, he's a little bit more skilled than some of the other guys. He's 5'10". He doesn't have the physical abilities, but mentally he's pretty good. Great determination. Marking and tackling are okay, but he's got crossing, which is a little better than some of the other players at his age. So, he plays into our more attacking style of fullback that we like to play. He can play that fullback or defensive fullback, so he gives us, a little bit more versatility back there. And again, it allows me to take my 17-year-olds and send them away and play this guy instead. So that was the plan I had for the roster, was replace all of my 17-year-olds with 21-year-olds from the Super Draft, play these guys and see if they can improve and get better. Let's see. What else happened? Some trades happened. We traded Akindele away for a couple of draft picks. That's why we had 5 draft picks instead of 4. We got another first-round pick this year for him. And, some super draft, and a pick in the 2020 draft, 4th-round pick. So not anything too exciting. Now, we brought a few players in, and one player that we brought in, David Cottrell, 30 years old, from Birmingham. He's a winger. We're always looking for wingers. But he's one of those guys that if you go to Europe and try to bring this guy in, he's not available until the summer because we don't share the same transfer window. So I've had to make room on the roster for this guy and just mentally keep in my mind, okay, we need an international slot available for this guy because he is Welsh by nationality, and we have to keep the salary cap available for him. We signed him to a $338,000 senior contract. So we've had to make sure we got that stuff available, which we do, but we have to have a plan for that, and that's for the summertime. Then the other guy we're trying to bring in is Jefferson Severino. He's a young player that we found out there just using our scouts. He's another winger. This we're gonna play him on the right hand side. He's gonna be the backup for Michael Barrios because he's the same kind of attacking winger. He's only 21 years old, so he's got some room to grow. And we're trying to bring this guy in on a free transfer. He was just out there without a job. And this is what I mentioned in one of my previous videos. Like, you have to scout those unemployed guys because you're always going to find little gems like this guy. He's got a 3-star ability, which is pretty good. And then he's got 4-star potential ability, that's a star player in MLS. So his only problem is that he doesn't leap very well, but everything else works good. He's likely to fit into our squad dynamics. He's got speed. He's got technique. He's got everything that Uncle John needs. All right. So that's kind of it. That's kind of our preseason preview in terms of the offseason, in terms of trades and comings and goings and drafts and all that stuff. So we got to look at finally now is the schedule. There's the 2017 schedule. There's the 2018 schedule. As I mentioned, it started a little earlier. We started playing games on January 6th versus University of Football. And that's too early. That's way too early. But we've got our Champions League game just in 2 weeks. Now, I'd love to show you this on the calendar, but our calendar is janked, and our calendar starts in March. Even though it's currently January, I can't show you. I can't show you anything before March. So that's a bug that needs to be fixed. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it was a setting that I set. I've looked through, preferences and all that stuff. So if there's something I'm missing, let me know. If there's a way, I know at the beginning of the season I wanted to get started, so I set my calendar a little later. But you'd think with the next season it would reset and show you the whole year, but I can't show anything prior to March. So even though it's January and even though we're playing games, I can't show you. So you have to look on this version here. So I had to schedule all these friendlies, and currently my stadium is under construction, so it's kind of weird. So I've had to schedule a bunch of away games, even though we do have a few home games sprinkled in that the computer scheduled. My assistant coach, I suppose, scheduled them. But now we've got an away match this week against Medellin, which is our final difficult friendly before we start our Champions League versus Real Esteli. Now, what I've kind of done, what I like to do in the off season is I like to schedule difficult game, easy game, difficult game, easy game, and then I play fully rotated sides. I play my starters, I play my backups. Starters, backups, starters, backups. So we're going to get used to our starters here. We're going to play Medellin, which is a first division Colombian team. They're pretty good. They got 3-star continental reputation, so they're at least as good as we are. Senior squad. Let's see if we can see something about these guys. So there we go. Our scouts really love these guys. We're looking at 4-star guys all over the place. Daniel Catano. I mean, look at these guys. These guys are pretty good. They are at the very least as good as we are. So this is the kind of team we want to be playing, a team that'll get us ready for Champions League. At least give us some kind of competition, some kind of build-up. So let's look at the match preview. Medellin versus FC Dallas. Looking pretty good. So here's our lineup. Here's our roster. We, of course, all of these names are going to be pretty familiar since we haven't had a lot of time to make moves. In fact, like the international transfer window isn't even open yet. Like for MLS, it doesn't open until February. So in previous seasons, I've been able to get ready for the Champions League just after the window opens, the transfer window. I'm losing my mind here. Just after the transfer window opens, you had Champions League registration. So you had a couple of days in there where you could actually make some transfer moves, bring in some big players, and prepare for Champions League. But now with Champions League being so much earlier, I can't do that. I can't sign any players. I can't make any big transfer moves to get ready for Champions League. The only way I can get ready for Champions League is through the MLS Super Draft and through free transfers, guys who are unemployed. So that's what I've had to do this year getting ready for Champions League. So my team is basically the same as it was last year. We got Hollingshead and Acosta at fullbacks, Hedges, Zimmerman in central defense. Ulloa hanging down the defensive midfielder, holding down, I should say, the defensive midfielder role. Diaz, Grueza back in central midfield. We got Barrios, and Weigl is back from injury, so that's good. He's going to give us a little bit more firepower out on the left wing, and then Max Urruti as our lone striker. Then on the bench, I guess we're gonna have to bring this down to 7 players on the bench, right? We can't have 12 players. No, this is not the Champions League game. This is the preseason game versus Medellin. All right, so we can have all 12 guys on the bench, and as you can see, we got a lot of our draft picks in there. Manguia is there. Storer is there. We got an interesting player here, Anibal Chala. He's a guy who was on the team last year. 21-year-old Ecuadorian, but he was out on loan. And I think the reason he's out on loan is that whoever bought this guy paid way too much for him. He's a 21-year-old guy making $338,000. Like, forget about it. That's like what your veterans should be making. And he's all right. Don't get me wrong, he's okay player, but he's not worth $338,000. But we need this guy because he can play left wing, he can play left fullback, he can play left midfield if we ever decided to play such a thing. So he gives us that flexibility down the left-hand side. He's got good crossing at 14, but that's really his main skill. He's not a great fullback, so he makes a little bit better attacking midfielder than he does a fullback. But this guy is just not great value for money, unfortunately. There's Zamora, our other draft pick, and Caspil. Casipel? I got to get used to these names. Ronnie, our backup goalkeeper that we also drafted. So we got a lot of our draft picks in the second team, and we're going to see them, sprinkled in throughout the game. So, team instructions. What are we going to do? That's now a button. That's cool. That's different. All right, so we're going to go against Medellin. We're going to go counter. Yeah, I think we'll go counter just to feel them out, just to make sure that they don't pull anything tricky on us. Let's go a little bit. We're going to mix it up a little bit. Our guys are used to the system now, so we're going to go flexible and give them a little bit of maneuvering room out there. All right. Submit the team. Let's go. So it's been not a long off season, a short off season, but very, very busy off season. So here they are. They're going with the classic 4-4-2. All right. Let's look at the dressing room. Team talk. Concentrate on building up your fitness and on your performance. That's what I'm looking for tonight. And then we'll hand over the individual talks to the assistant. Nobody cares. It's just a preseason game. Let's go. So Medellin, look at this stadium. It's a nice big stadium. Lots of players. What's up with these highlights? There's Medellin in the gray on the attack. Sends a ball wide. But what sort of highlights? Comprehensive highlights. That's a bit too much. Extended is what we're looking at. So there is a corner. It's interesting. It didn't start off with the normal, kickoff highlight. That was weird. All right, here's Valencia. Corner kick on the far side. Headed out by Moreno. There's a foot race for it. Valencia looks kind of slow. He centers the ball to Ponce, who changes direction out wide. Moreno just sends a shot in for Medellin. What are we looking to get out of this game? We need a good performance. We haven't really performed that well, especially our backups. Our second team has not performed well because we have so many new guys that they just haven't been able to work together very well, and their team cohesion is kind of low. So really, we're just trying to look at our first team, see if we can beat a team like Medellin, which I don't know if we should, but it's really a 50-50 game. So if we beat these guys well, I think that means that we are definitely on the right track. If we struggle against these guys, then I think we're really going to struggle in Champions League because we got an interesting game to start out with. It's a team that looks like they've got 4 very good players and then a bunch of scrubs. So I don't really know how they're going to perform. All right, here's our first highlight. 16 minutes in, Gonzalez sends one downfield to nobody in particular. Medellin grabs a hold of it. Ponce at midfield sends it forward to Valencia. He's probing the defense, but he gets tackled by Grueza. And now we start the counterattack with Weigl. Looks like they're staying back pretty good, but they've left a hole for Urruti. Urruti, looking for some support, drops it all the way back to Ulloa. Midfielders pass it around. Grueza up to you. Urruti. Barrios takes a shot. So we got Barrios on the attack, and I think that's going to be his role going forward. And it was mostly his role last season, was as an attacking winger. Just to give us an extra little bit of scoring punch up front. Here's Acosta with a corner on the near side. Sends it to Hedges, who heads it in. That's our dude, man. That is our guy. Hedges. Offside. No, push. Goal disallowed for pushing another player. Come on. What is this, the playground? You're allowed to push a little bit. I'm upset with that. That's that South American reffing, I tell you. Don't know what they're doing down there. All right, 30 minutes down. Not a lot of highlights going on in this game. But that's okay. For a preseason game, you're still building that match fitness. And hopefully we'll be close to fully fit, if not completely fully fit, by the time we get to our first Champions League game. And that's really what this preseason is all about. It's all about building fitness, building the team for Champions League, and that could hurt us next season. It could wear our team out, having to play all these games so early. By the time we get to the MLS season, it'll feel like we've already played a full season. And then we got like the playoffs. We just got out of the playoffs like a couple of months ago. You know, our playoffs ended late November, early December even. Yeah, early December is when our playoffs ended, so we haven't had much time off. There's Gonzalez with a nice stop. Gonzalez has gotten a little bit better over the offseason. He's a 3-star guy now, so that's good. Here's Valencia. I guess it depends on who's scouting him and who's looking at him. That was a shot off the post. So sometimes you look at him and he's still 2.5 stars. Sometimes you look at him and he's 3 stars. So like right now we look at him and he's 2.5 stars. So I don't know what that's all about. But he is improving. He is getting better, and that's what's important. You know, the rest of our team is pretty much in their prime. The rest of our team... Ooh, there's a yellow card from Ulloa. Acosta is like 23, so he's pretty much reached his max potential. Same with Zimmerman. Hedges is a little bit older. Ulloa, Diaz, all these guys are a little bit older. What's this now? Halftime. Okay. So not a very exciting first half at all. Team talk. Keep going out there. You can still win. Blah, blah, blah. Take a look at our tactics. See if there's anything we can change tactically. The tactics now kind of looks like a button, too. I guess that's a fix in a recent patch, so that's good. Let's see. Barrios is on the attack. 4-star guy. Don't think there's much we can do there. How about team instructions? We could try going standard and closing down a little bit more. We could try the control game. That might be okay. I don't know that Medellin has looked like they're a great counterattacking team. So maybe if we control the ball a little bit, maybe we can do something against them. All right, let's start the second half. Whoa. There we go. Rudy kicks it off to Ulloa, who's got that yellow card. Got to be careful there. Acosta just sort of boots it downfield. They are keeping their defense back, so maybe possession is the way to go. Moreno across midfield to Pereira, down to Venegas. Medellin on the attack here. Guy looked offside, but I guess not. Zapata takes a wild shot. Chavara with the goal kick. I don't know how to... Oh, there's a big mix-up by the central defender. Rudy around the defense. And there's the goal. That's the goal we needed right there. Rudy with the little barrel roll. None of his teammates come down to congratulate him. They're just going to stay at their end of the field. And let this guy celebrate all on his own. This was just a total mix-up by the defender. Rudy blocks the pass attempt. One-on-one with the goalkeeper. Easy peasy. If a Rudy goes down this season, if he goes injured for any length of time, we're going to have to make a move. We're going to have to go out and get another striker. Spend some of that transfer money in the transfer window if possible. Or make a big trade, go and pick up somebody who is transfer listed. And there are guys out there who are transfer listed. But so far, the other teams in the league haven't really wanted to make any trades with me. But that could be because the transfer window isn't open at the moment. So maybe they're waiting for that. Here's Barrios into the box, takes a shot over the goal. But I think control is starting to work for us. 55 minutes in. If we just keep the clock ticking, that's fine. That is totally fine if we just, run out the clock. They got a pretty tired dude, Moreno, on their squad. They need to sub him out before he gets injured. We got Barrios looking complacent. But other than that, we're looking pretty good. Zimmerman's not looking real hot there, central defense. Also, our wingers, Barrios and Weigl, they aren't looking too good either. 6.4 ratings, the lot of them. All right, here we got a highlight. Let's see what's happening. Zimmerman on the back. Don't make the same mistake that they did. He just boots it downfield. Weigl tracks it down at midfield. Centers to Diaz. Diaz to Greza. Looking forwards. He gets dispossessed at midfield by Restrepo, who starts the counterattack for Medellin. Here's Venegas. Looking for Zapata. He's triple covered, but he gets a pass through to Venegas. Venegas is a guy who's available. I was looking in my scouting, and I happened to notice a guy from Medellin available. So that left winger there, Venegas. Can we take a look at him? So he's actually a striker, a defensive forward. He was transfer listed, and he looks okay, but he's not really what we want for a striker unless we're going to go for two striker formation. Then we can play him at defensive forward. He can play the right wing pretty well as also. He's got crossing and dribbling, so he's a possibility. But we already have Barrios out on the right wing, and we don't really need another starter. If our contract offer to that young kid doesn't go through. If we get beat out for his services or something like that. That's happened to me before a couple of times in FM18 where you put a bid out on a guy and you think you got him, and then the next thing you know, he signs with somebody else for like a little bit more money. That's kind of annoying. But anyway, if those plans fall through, we might look at Venegas. He's not valued very highly, but that's good. We're looking for cheap guys. All right, enough of that. Don't know what else we got to do. We're definitely up against the Champions League registration period. I think today is actually the registration deadline. So after this game, we might have to register our squad. And that means this is the team we get to go with. Gonzalez with a bit of a shaky stop there, but he stops it nonetheless, and Medellin does not follow it up. So if we can't bring anybody in the next 12 to 24 hours, this is the team we got. This is the team we're going with. And is this a Champions League quality team? I'm not so certain that it is. I think we can probably compete with some teams in the league, but when it comes to going up against Mexican league teams, I don't think we have the depth to go up against the Mexican league team, because a couple of injuries here and there, and we're kind of out the window. Especially a Rudy. If a Rudy goes down during this Champions League, we're out of luck. We're going with Zamora as our lead striker, which is not going to go well. Maybe bring up one of those 17-year-olds, bring them back from loan and put them out there, but I don't know. I mean, like Reynolds can play striker, but he's not going to be scoring on a Mexican league team. Here's Diaz now with a free kick. So it would have to come down to scoring goals through Diaz, scoring goals through set pieces, corners. We've scored quite a few goals off of corners since we made those changes. Here's Acosta now sending it in. Rudy playing back instead of going for the goal, but that's fine. Here's Venegas on the counterattack. Medellin's got some guys rushing forward. There's a foul by Hollingshead, but that was a very good foul. That was a professional foul. All right, Diaz is looking pretty low. We only got 87 minutes down, though. I guess we can play these guys and just go for the win. That's not a foul, is it? No, that's just out of bounds. All right, so here we go. Free corner kick. Free corner kick on the near side. It's headed out by Hedges. Ulloa tracks it down and gets fouled by Venegas. Venegas is not making a great impression here. He avoids the yellow card, though. Just gets a talking to. Oh, that's right. They're going with the 4-4-2, so Venegas is playing the striker role. I was kind of trying to figure out. I was trying to figure out their formation, and I don't know, it just didn't compute to me that they were running the 4-4-2. But there's Hollingshead with a nice interception. Gets it ahead to Barrios. Down that sideline, over one man, tries to center it to a Rudy, but it goes out of bounds. Gets booted out by the defense. That was a really good play by Barrios on the right-hand side. I've really come around on Barrios now. I've signed him to a new contract. I've just admitted that we're going to be playing in the winger formation, and there is a Rudy offside. Still and forever offside. Oh, they've got Gonzalez in goal as well. Fun times. Yeah, so Barrios, we've signed him to a new contract. He's one of our important players. We just gotta, face facts that we're going to be playing wingers for the foreseeable future. There's Weigl, gets it up to a Rudy, and there's full time. So there we go. 1-0 victory, not the most exciting thing you ever saw. But we did come away with the victory, and that's what's important. Dressing room, team talk. For a preseason match, that was good. And the pep talk right there. So that was pretty good. Our ratings were all right. Especially in the second half. Rudy looked a little better in the second half. 7.1 rating. That's pretty good. Look at our analysis, maybe. Yep. Team analysis. I've discovered that this is something you can do. Players. You can look and see where we got our shots from. See, Maximilian missed from there, and he scored from there. It's fun, I suppose. Is there an overview? There's our heat map overview. Medellin sort of all over the place, whereas we kept it a little narrower, a little more defensive, looks like. Summary. Got our pass completion stats, 90%, 95% for our midfield. Grueza, 4 mistakes. Barrios, 0% crosses. Rudy, only 23% headers. So we got some things to work on, and we'll work on those in the days to come. Let's get out of here. I said, let's get out of here. All right. So we got our Champions League registration, as you can see right there. FC Dallas, Edge, Medellin. Let's move forward just a little bit. See if that guy signs with us. Oh, we got a... we're looking for a new scout. I was hoping to get a new scout before the draft. But look at these guys. Look at these guys that are coming in. Three judging. Like, why would I even think about hiring you? 3. I mean, 7, 8 judging player abilities. 7. Like, why would I hire any of these guys? It's almost better to have nobody than one of these guys. So the putting things out for advertising is just not working. I mean, we're getting scrubs beyond scrubs. I would never hire any of these guys. So Tommy Krasnovic. Tommy Krasanovic. Sort of our best guy. 9 judging player ability, 10 judging player potential. I mean, that's our best guy. That's terrible. He's Croatian. I don't really want a Croatian scout. I don't really want more emails from Croatia. I want more American scouts. So we're going to continue this advert until we get somebody who's decent. Burke wants the job. Go ahead. All right, so here's our Champions League. We're not going to get to sign anybody else before Champions League, so this is our team. This is our team. Let's auto-select. Make sure we got everybody. Yeah, we got everybody. So we got 26 players, 0 replacements. Everybody's going to play. Everybody's going to get registered. All right, so we'll come back next time and we'll play some Champions League. How about that? So until then, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.